I wanted to talk today about a negation process in the message of non-duality known as neti. Neti literally means not this, not this. It is a process or a practice to reveal the false and eliminate it, and what remains is the truth. And this practice of neti is found throughout all non-dual teachings. It's not just found in Hinduism, but in Buddhism and Christianity. It's found in the sciences. It's found in modern playwrights and writings. So neti is a universal way to negate what is not real that reveals what is real. And we could say it's an egoic practice. Like we as egos undergo this, it's an understanding. We start to understand what we are not so that it can be revealed in what we are. You could say it's the first stage of self-enquiry, because it's literally you've decided to make an attempt to truly understand what is not who you think you are is not the truth, and what remains is the truth. I put together another slide deck for this because some of us like to see where we learn by seeing, and these are just quotes. And what I want to do is to show you that this process of neti is a universal understanding that's a thread that runs through all non-dual message. And every one of these quotes that we're going to go over, you could write an entire book on just every one of these quotes. They're so profound and direct. And it seems like as we are in this message and we want to know the truth of ourselves, because that's where the peace lies, we go on this hunt to make sure that what is being said here has validity in other places. Like, is this true in Christianity? Is this true in academia? Is this true in Taoism? And that's what I want to show us today, because that's what we're really doing here is gaining trust. Trust that this message is taking us to the end game, because we need all the trust we can get, because what this message is saying is that we have to let go of everything that we know. Everything. And when that happens, we obtain everything we're after. So it seems like there's a running theme in all of this. There's kind of two phases. We're in this conceptual understanding phase that is a paradox, because the more you learn about non-duality, you're actually letting go of what's false to experience the truth more and more. So it's this seeking to allow the truth and trust of this to become more and more prevalent in your experience of yourself, to where you get to a point to where you surrender into what we would call phase 2, which is self-surrender and self-enquiry, where you're literally turning your attention in to earnestly know the truth of yourself. So these quotes we're going to go over are just helping us build a universal trust, we could say. That, hey, some of the most credible people in the most respected industries or religions or spiritualities are saying the same thing all the way through. So there must be truth in this. I'm going to share my screen. So I've chosen to go over like Christianity, spirituality or Buddhism, Hinduism, science, and playwrights and poets. And you'll see that every one of these sentences or these quotes are just to the truth and just profound. And that's one of the experiences here in this message, is that it is profound. And we love experiencing the profound, because in the profound, it's a mystery. It's a paradox. There's awe in that. And we love to be taken to the edge of our mind and beyond, because that's where true awe-ness is experienced. So St. Thomas Aquinas is known as one of the most radical thinkers in Christianity. He was a Dominican friar and a Catholic priest, and he wrote volumes of books on rationalizing and coming to like a logical conclusion on what this universal oneness is, this universal reality, or in Christian religions, in most religions, is everywhere, is God. And so St. Thomas's quote is, "But we cannot know what God is, only what he is not. We must therefore consider the ways in which God does not exist rather than the ways in which he does." Is this not neti neti? We can't know what the truth is. We can only know what the truth is not. And what the truth is not is false knowledge. It's a negation. When you negate the false, you end up in the truth. So God here, again, is a universal. It could be the way, it could be the Tao, it could be Brahman, it could be Buddha, it could be the unified field, it could be Allah. These are all just names that we put on this universal world. This word is God. It could be the Father. But again, what he's saying is that we cannot know God conceptually. We can never ever know God with our minds. We can only know with our minds what he is not. And again, this is the process of like realizing what he is not. This is like we touched on this last week. We're out here as an ego. We're out in this world grabbing for experiences and wealth and relationships and adventures to try to satisfy and find this thing we call God or total peace. And back here is this thing called consciousness or awareness or being. And it is basically non-existence to this thing out here. Only when somebody points it out, is this thing here? Yes, yeah, I'm conscious, I'm aware, but so what? It has no value. This negation process is literally, as you negate the false of this and this dissolves, this comes to the forefront. And you experience this because there is a gradient as this happens. The gradient is the ego dissolving. This never changes, ever. It's permanence. It's eternal. It's infinite. It doesn't move in any way. So any sort of gradient is this illusion of ego. So as we find and we start to understand what we are not, is the experience of this. Thich Nhat Hanh is a Zen master. He died recently, in the last year or two, but he was very well known as a Buddhist monk. He was, on Oprahs and stuff like that. So, he was very well known. But I wanted to bring the Buddhists into play here because, again, they're pointing to the same thing. Concepts and ideas are incapable of expressing reality as it is. Nirvana is the extinction of all concepts. So what he's saying here is our mind, our conceptual mind and ideas of what we think reality is, what we think God is, what we think peace is, that mind is incapable of knowing that. So we need to negate that mind. We need to dissolve that mind. Where nirvana is the extinction of mind. That's exactly what he's saying here. You can't get to where you're going unless you dissolve the one that wants to get to the place you want to go. That sense of me. Donald Hoffman is a scientist and a professor at the University of California in Irvine. If you spend much time in the science realm of this, I'm sure you've run across Donald. He is pushing the boundaries of reality and science, and he actually writes books on it. But this is a scientific point of view, and what he says in this quote is just absolutely profound. Consciousness immerses itself fully into an apparent ego, gets lost in it, then slowly wakes up to itself by knowing what it is not. Take that in for a moment. That's a scientist. He's come to this conclusion on reality. Consciousness, this back here, this is happening because consciousness has emerged itself in this out here and it's forgotten itself. This is known as ignorance. Ignorance is not stupidity or anything like that. It's just simply the forgetfulness of yourself. You have forgotten yourself. The ego has forgotten itself. By coming into this apparent individual that seems to be real in here somehow. And in this message, it's consciousness that's slowly waking up to itself by knowing what it is not. Neti neti. I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not those, I'm not these. I am what remains in the absence of everything. And what is everything? Everything is anything we know with our mind, our body, or our five senses. There is nothing outside of these three categories that stands outside of it. This is everything to us. It's all of my thoughts, all of my memories, all of my ideas, my problem solving, which we call our mind, plus my bodily sensations, emotions, feelings, the body itself. Anything that I know with my eyes, I smell, I taste, I touch, I hear. This is everything to us. Because at the center of everything, it's the I, the me, who has a mind, has a body, and sees the world with its five senses. What does it mean to slowly wake up? As consciousness slowly wakes up to itself, it's negating that this I has all of these things and is this mind and body. So what is false is that I am a body that has a mind. That's what's false. And that is a big deal. We can't deny that. That's why this learning phase can take a while to gain enough trust to say like, wow, I gotta let go of that. And if I do, what is left? Well, there's no form left and there's no egoic mind left. There's only the infinite, boundless freedom of being, of yourself. And which is the universal mind of consciousness. There is still mind. There isn't an individual finite mind. It's the infinite mind of awareness, which is everything. And the world doesn't black out. It doesn't morph into something else. It still is. It's just not separate from you anymore. Of course, I had to get a Ramana Maharshi quote in here from the Master. But Ramana Maharshi is one of the most revered sages, Indian sages in the 20th century. And his quote is, "When the world appears to be real, the self does not appear. When the world appears to be real, the self does not appear. And when the self appears, the world does not appear." These are inverses of one another. Your mind and your heart are inverses of one another. One cannot exist in the other's presence. When the world exists, that is when consciousness has fallen asleep to itself, using Donald Hoffman's words. The world in Ramana's case here, which is false. The world is anything that we know with our mind, body, and five senses. That's his word for everything. And the world is false to him. Now, it doesn't mean it doesn't appear. It's just not separate from who you are. There's only consciousness appearing as the world. Nothing stands separate from consciousness. Nothing. There's only the one of consciousness or awareness or being, God, whatever words you want to put on that. That's all that exists. Everything that we would know with our five senses is nothing but an appearance of consciousness appearing as that, whatever it is we're attending to. A tree is nothing other than consciousness appearing as a tree. That tree is not, it hasn't come into a separate existence that stands separate from consciousness. This is the playwright bucket, the writer's bucket, the contemporary geniuses that we may call them, the William Blakes, the William Shakespeares, the T.S. Eliots, the John Muirs. And this author here, Arthur Doyle, created a very famous character called Sherlock Holmes. And Sherlock Holmes is a fictional detective. He's an investigator. He's the world's greatest sleuth. He has these profound insights that negate the false, and whatever remains has to be the truth. Now, Sherlock in this case is an illusion. But every illusion has an underlying reality. For instance, every night the sun sets, and sometimes we go out and we watch the sunset. The sun moves down the horizon and slowly disappears until it's gone. That is an illusion. What is the underlying reality to that? It's the Earth's rotation that gives the illusion the sun is setting. Now, we don't deny that it appears the sun is moving down the horizon. So we do acknowledge the illusion, but every illusion has an underlying reality. In this case, Sherlock Holmes is the illusion, and Sherlock's underlying reality is Sherlock's author, Arthur Doyle. So when Sherlock says profound things, when the illusion says profound things, who's actually saying that? Because this quote is amazing. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. From an ego's point of view, what is impossible? What is Sherlock saying here with regards to non-dual language? When you've eliminated the impossible is to the ego that it can be an illusion and that it has to be removed to experience the truth. That's impossible. Because if you removed me, the ego, who would get out of bed? Who would go make money? How would I eat? I would be a blob. That's That's the impossible that has to be eliminated. And what is the improbable to an ego? That who it truly is at its source is infinite, boundless freedom. That's completely improbable. That can't be. But that is what remains when the impossible is eliminated. The improbable comes into play, and that is the truth. Whew, that's amazing. And then the last slide here, the beloved Rumi. Rumi was a 13th century poet and mystic, and he's still regarded today as the most beloved Sufi poet. Other Sufi poets could be Kabir, Hafiz, and there's several others. And these are the Sufis. They are embedded into the non-dual teachings of Islam. And their writings are as profound as it gets. And this quote here is probably going to be the basis for my next book. In love's existence, I become non-existent. This non-existence linked to you is better than anything I experienced in existence. Love's existence is infinite. How can a finite ego exist in the one existence of love? It can't. It needs to be negated to experience love's infinite existence. So that's why I have the ego eyes in quotes to help us understand where he's going when he says eyes. So it seems like those of us who've been in this message a while, you start to understand when poets talk or somebody's writing about it, what eye they're talking about. Is this the infinite eye or is this the ego eye? But I put the ego eye in quotes here to help us. So the ego eye becomes non-existent in love's existence. So this non-existence linked to love, so that's the non-existence of a me, is linked to the infinite love. That is better than anything the me experienced when the me was in existence. So the me's in existence, and the me is realized that when it becomes non-existent, it is encapsulated by love's existence. So every one of these quotes points to the negation of this sense of me to experience the infiniteness of ourself. which is the truth. So what is it that we're after here? What is the ultimate end game? Well, it's gaining enough trust in this message to surrender yourself into love's infinite existence. And that takes courage. What we're truly after is the 100% acknowledgement that I am is not a form, that I am not a form, that I don't have a finite mind. The ultimate end game is the 100% conviction that I am is infinite. It's formless. It's boundless. It has zero resistance. It's complete peace. It has no desire because it is everything. When you're everything, what else do you need? What else is there? There isn't everything. You're everything. That is the definition of peace, or I'm sorry, happiness. Happiness is the absence of desire. And when you are everything, there's no separation. There's no two of anything. One thing doesn't stand against another for there to be distance in between anything to experience separation. It's total unity. And total unity is the experience of unconditional love and acceptance. So by negating the false, you are literally giving up everything that you know. It might be it seems to be simple at first, like, okay, I can give up my beliefs. Okay, I can see that because a belief is a limitation. Because if I believe X, then I don't believe Y, so I'm leaving all of this potential out. I could see if I just let my beliefs go. Does anything really change? No, it doesn't. But as you let the low-lying fruit go, so to speak, you get closer and closer to this thing like that's I feel myself in here. I gotta let go of that. That's why we have to gain trust. That's why we have to go back to all of these masters and say, gosh, okay, these amazing beings are saying it's the truth. And it's across all of these spectrums. I'm willing to let go more and more. So how do we apply this? Like, how do we make this practical? Well, recently I've had a lot of questions about, the world is the world's a tough place. It seems to be getting tougher and tougher with all of these unknowns, this uncertainty. There's a lot of talk about AI. What's it gonna do? Am I gonna lose my job? Am I gonna go out of business? There's just a lot of uncertainty, and we can't deny it. It seems to be real. The geopolitical world, all of this is happening. We can't deny it. In fact, it's in us wanting it to be different is where the suffering lies. Because who's the one that wants it to be different? The egoic I, the me. By us resisting what the world is doing, we stay an individual. The message of non-duality is saying you're coming into a realm of unconditional love and acceptance for what is. And the sense of me can't ever get that. It can't ever know that, and it can't ever experience it. Because it is separation itself. It's the one that wants everything to be different so that it can be happy. It wants the entire world to change so it can be happy. Good luck with that. 8 billion people have to change so that one person can be happy? Never going to happen. As we negate the false of the ego, the experience of yourself changes. Because as you come back into the infiniteness of yourself, the experience of separation dissolves. And unity comes into play. And unconditional love and acceptance for what is. So the world doesn't change. The world will never change. It is how you change, how you experience yourself, is how you experience the world. Said slightly different. How you experience yourself is how you perceive the world. It doesn't mean everything we just said about AI and geopolitical and all the other things going on in the world, they're still there. We can't deny that. We don't deny that. It's just, you just see it for what it is. It's the illusion of the world doing these somewhat drastic things. That's the illusion. And what we learned earlier is every illusion has an underlying reality. What is that? It's yourself. It's peace. That's why this negation is so critical in the past, so you can come home and experience this. It's always available. It has never left. It has its infinitely wide open arms of acceptance just waiting for you to come home. It's waited for eternity. So this is the practical aspect of it. Again, this is mind concepts. We can't deny that, but we use the tool we have. We have this egoic mind that wants to know the truth. And so the solution to the crazy world is knowing yourself. It's self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is the 100% conviction that I am is infinite. So the solution to the world's problems is answering the question, who am I? It's a paradox, because it's saying the answer isn't out here at all. It's never out here. It can never be found out here. It can only be found within. So anytime the world is pulling you into it and you're feeling disgruntled in some sort of way, ask yourself the question, who am I? And in that, the ego, it like obeys itself somehow. It cherishes itself. And it literally turns within to go see who it is. And moments later, after you've asked the question, you'll like realize, oh, I did experience some peace there for a bit. And every time you do that, we could say that is a form of nutty. We're learning what is not true to experience what is true. And that experience of truth is peace and fulfillment and satisfaction. Wholeness, completeness. It's this simple. It is this simple. It's prior to simple, because it's prior to your mind. So I will always encourage for you to turn within. Because that's where your salvation lies. That's where the answer lies. And all of these scholars and saints and sages in all of these different fields are helping you come to that conclusion. If you have any questions, feel free.